Good night, and welcome to Mindful Live. What are we on now? 5:35, are we? We are on a high number. A high number. Thank you for being here. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Probably about a month or so, We've been busy, really busy. Two daughters tend to do that to you, Two daughters tend to make things a lot busier than they would have been previous to that point. But I am here. I was told someone may have gotten a steak if they could have somehow gotten a live out. Yo, Ronnie. Yo. Yeah. So, what's up? What has been the latest? How have you all been? How are you reacting to the acceleration on our borders? What do you think about the radar? What do you think about the radar? Where were you hiding? Well, I wasn't hiding, I wasn't hiding. I was busy. Quite busy. Yeah, quite busy. I wasn't hiding. I've been around. You were missed. So I was told. How has the news been? What has been your takeaway of the news over the last month or so? We have a radar tower that we were told wasn't going to be built, I heard. And then it was built. And then we were told it's not our business. I believe those were basically the gist of the information that was put out. We have Homelander out here basically threatening people online. I saw him write to the Americans asking them to take part in what some might consider repression of freedom of speech, and the Americans basically said no. I see also he spoke about looking at China for possible measures. That sounds nearly insane to me, but okay. I saw someone arrested for making a threatening post to the Prime Minister, something that I think anyone would have known was a joke. I consider that move to be a very scary move personally, because I don't think that the Prime Minister was placed in any increased danger from those posts. And I don't think that the Prime Minister thinks that she was in increased danger from those posts. I think everyone in and around the Prime Minister and her security, I think they aren't worried about their security based on those posts. I think everyone would have known it was clearly a joke. So the fact that it's being punished seems to suggest to me that the punishment isn't a punishment based on threatening of security, but more a punishment based on threatening of jokes. Because it was clearly a joke. Maybe a bad joke, not a joke I would make, but still a joke. All right. And the idea about be careful about what you post because of the destabilizing of the country and that kind of thing. Destabilizing the country is an opinion statement, really and truly. Every campaign speech spoken by a politician could be considered as possibly destabilizing to a country. Like, how does one balance that? Hello, Zero Effect. Those are opinion statements. And I always disliked the idea that a lot of our policing in Trinidad a lot of our policing in Trinidad is based kind of on subjective ideas. I hate that idea. Subjectivity in policing is cruelty. The idea that what you could punish me legally for isn't based on something that anyone could look and objectively say, well, that's obvious. It's based on your version of what it is. That's a scary thing. Being a Bajan is policing in Trini. Oh, Usher Bascom, Mr. Usher Bascom. Brother, send me a number for you. The last time I messaged you, I call your number. A lady answer vex, eh? She say, you don't have no phone. Don't call back here. But yes, Zero Effect, that's kind of true. Being a Bajan is policing in Trini. And you know what's unfortunate about that? I've been listening and reading quite a bit over the last month or so. And what I realize is that's a colonial thing. That seems to be a colonial thing. That seems to be something very common amongst countries that came out from colonialism. The police that were once colonized and now have taken the reins of the former colonial police, oftentimes that's the kind of approach they take. I'm a Bajan, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, I have the power now. Instead of actually a service-minded industry. The police is ideally supposed to be a service-minded job, but that's not how it works in former colonies. Not generally. And politicians can use that to their advantage. They can and do use that to their advantage. All right, yeah. Our Sedition and Treason Acts are amendments of laws from 1844 and 1920. Yeah. Those things are difficult things to actually ascertain. And to me, if you're attempting to be the kind of freedom country, the kind of free speech country, a Western style democracy, those laws are really supposed to be nearly exclusively used in serious times of conflict. Now, granted, maybe we are in a serious time of conflict, we just aren't aware, we aren't privy of how serious it might be. That could be the case. But I think the usage of such laws and ideas to be quite scary. And Homelander himself, the personality there, when I look at that person, it scares me. Because the person seems to have very few qualms about following whatever orders they are given. In their many years of many words with little value, I don't think I've heard them really speak about balancing of that power side of policing. Homelander nearly always speaks like they want to use more power. Breads, over the years, I've said many seditious things against every government from 2000 to now. The truth is, as you are saying, nearly anything could be considered seditious. It's a subjective kind of term. But to me, the idea of the subjectivity there is supposed to be that it's about someone who really has interest in harming or bringing down the country. It has, to me, the idea there should be kind of motivationally based. Not just about people who are saying things that a government doesn't like, Because when you're in a democratic system where there's antagonistic politics, like we do, we have antagonistic politics. The opposition and the government are against each other, basically. In order for the opposition to win elections, they have to basically speak against what the government is doing. If your version of sedition is basically anybody who speaks against the government, then how does an opposition survive? Granted, posting the Prime Minister's residence is not speaking against policy. And to be balancing on this is something that I've said all along. I've been on the internet for a while. I've been posting content for some time now. I've said this all along. Be careful what you post. This isn't your mind, where you could think whatever thought you want and let it float around in your mind and it's consequence-free. Well, your thoughts aren't even consequence-free, but that's another topic. Many people have been and are way too reckless in what they post. They're way too reckless in what they post. And who knows, maybe, as I said, I started with the idea that I don't like this, but maybe this level of danger hanging over our social media in the country may allow some people to regulate their posting a bit more. Because I think there have been way too many reckless posters in Trinidad and Tobago for way too long now. Many people who seem to have no consideration over what they post. And well, now you kind of have to, eh? Now you kind of have to. Anyway, folks, it is Thursday. And on a Thursday, what we do here in the Mindful Life, as we haven't done probably in a month time, is we talk. If you're feeling talkative, if you have something to add, if you have something to discuss, something to disagree with, feel free to jump in over there on TikTok and join in. Let's have that discussion. Let's have that discussion. Double hit that like button if you're over there on TikTok. Let's get those likes really pumping. A full month. And if you're over on YouTube, do hit that like button too. It does help if you're looking at this on repeat. Hit that like button, drop a comment. Let me hear what you have to say. Make sure you're subscribed. So, what's on your mind, folks? What's been on your mind, Ronnie? What's been the interesting thing? A little over a month, somebody said. Well, we'll see. That month flew by, to be very honest with you. PSA, the 10%. Listen. There are many things I'd like to discuss about that PSA and the 10% issue. Here's one. The labor minister basically told the other unions, you have to take what you got, you have to take what you agreed with. You all agreed to take that money. Don't come and look at what the PSA is getting now. You can't get that. And here's the thing. I understand and kinda agree with that as it pertains to business and workers and their negotiations. That makes sense. You negotiate, you have to stand by what you negotiate by. But here's the problem in this situation. It's a little different because we're talking about the government. So the situation we basically find ourselves bald-facedly, blatantly standing in right now in our current political zeitgeist is that a government blatantly promised taxpayers' dollars to government workers in reward for the government workers voting for them. So basically, our government hires and employs the largest number of workers. They are the largest employer in the country. But then the same government can use other people's money to employ these people, and then the same government can basically bribe these people that they have employed to keep them in power or put them in power. I think there's something very wrong about the idea that workers can be bribed for elections. Because understand the direction this could go in. What you're saying is, if you have a powerful enough union that could deliver for you as a substantial enough electorate, you would very likely be willing to rob from the general country to pay off this union to win. And what purpose would democracy be then? Democracy could only work until we recognize that we can pay off voters with other people's money. Then what's the point of it? What's the point of it? I don't like that idea, that the government can basically blatantly bribe unions and workers. And especially when the union is a public sector union. Personally, I don't think the public sector should be able to have unions. Because your employer is supposed to already be under the responsibility of holding to the majority's view. They already have democracy and elections holding them at bay. So why should we have a union to seek your interest while the government itself should be seeking your interest as your government? I think public sector shouldn't even have a union, but maybe I'm getting too capitalist in that. Also, many people have been asking, where is the money going to come from? Now we see that there may have been a 6 for a 9 slip of the arm, quick movement of the hand in there, sleight of hand, because apparently they are getting some cash, but they're basically getting the dragon deal. We have to call this PSA deal apparently the dragon gas deal, where they must get non-cash payments. Now, I am not 100% sure what a non-cash payment would look like in this case. It could be like an IOU, a government bond, but a government bond is basically the idea that they're going to pay you the same money later on. Or stocks in something, in some government entity. But I am not 100% certain if I have the possibility of cash getting in my hand, if I would want government stocks in exchange for that, because which government company is so promising, really and truly? Maybe for citizens, how much stocks do they have there? Maybe it could be land, who knows? It's not the first time, it wouldn't be the first time a Trinidad government gives out land. I think I saw that this present government is looking to carry out the promise to Petrotrin workers of giving them land. So who knows? An HDC house. If you're a government worker and you could get a down payment on an HDC house instead of your back pay, maybe you might take that. But then I wonder, with all the other tricks and rigmaroles we're seeing there, what if it's possible that at the end of the day, the cash payment they get in terms of back pay might be less than they would have gotten in terms of if they took the 4%? What if, good night Ronnie, what if the cash payment they get now the back pay cash in hand before Christmas is actually less than the 4%. And then the payment in lieu, the payment in waiting, takes as long to get as another salary hike negotiation. So it's basically like you only got the 4% in the first place. What if?
Good night, Mindful Life.
Good night, Ronnie. I hope you get a steak.
Of course. Of course I get my steak. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. Public servants really got chopped and screwed. Because, listen, you know who won? And I keep saying they really are enticing the younger people. I don't know, they probably just hate old people. I don't know. Because they agreed to pay the one-time payment for Christmas. If you're retired, you're not getting it, by the way. So if you're just retired, if you're retired this month, you're not getting it. You have no money to get. Okay, cool. But if you came into the service last month, you are getting 10K.
Wow.
10K. If you came into the service on January 2025, you're getting 10K. What did you do to justify 10K in a back pay? If they had to work out the back pay breakdown, you wouldn't get 10%. Sorry, 10,000. You wouldn't get that. So how are you getting it now? And then people who have 30 years in the service, whatever, I don't know if it's 30 years, but like people who there a long time, wanting on that SRC, they're only getting 20K. So, yeah, it's not really that fair. I do think that they are enticing younger people because they are naive and they are a bit easier to trick because they're not going to feel the... If I now start, I'm 22, 23 years old for the most. I now start in service and I get 10K bonus. I love this government. I love everything they do because you know what? They keep their promises. That's what I'm thinking. But like the older people, they can't realize where really going on and it's not cash nonsense.
That's what I said. Democracy falls when people recognize they could just buy votes. Like they're struggling right now. If you're following international news, the bacchanal in the US with their Somali migrants and all of that. Some of the problems that communities like that create is they are now a voting bloc. So politicians pay special interest to that voting bloc. And if they are a voting bloc strong enough to make serious political sway, politicians will sacrifice the benefit of the main in order to give them specific benefits in order to win. It's the nature of the game. For me to be a successful politician, I have to win. That's what successful politicians do. And what would I do to win? Who knows? It might be a smart thing to pay off Gen Z right now because we have a cascade of Gen Z protests and revolutions around the world right now. I don't know if anyone has been paying attention. Some people have called it the Gen Z fall. And maybe it's this generation's version of the Arab Spring uprisings, which came in after Occupy Wall Street and such things for the millennials. The millennials had those. The Occupy movement and the Arab Spring revolutions and all of those. This may be the next generation's version of just that, where there have been revolutions, I believe in Nepal, Madagascar just had one. Peru, I think Mexico is right now having some revolutionary movement. Kenya, Indonesia, lots of places all around the world seems to be getting a bit of discontent by the present generation. So who knows? Maybe this might keep our Gen Zs at bay. Even though I don't think our Gen Zs in Trinidad and Tobago are going to do a thing. I don't think we have that kind of worry over here. But such is the way. Personally, I said this since the jump. I know some people might be offended by the idea, but I don't mind the public service not getting the 10%. I kind of didn't want them to get it anyway. Because economists have been saying this from the jump. Where are we going to get the money? Where is the money going to come from? And this is kind of why I don't like unions to some extent. The union head, when asked about the money and what they're willing to take, she says they want all cash. The idea that the country could be basically saying, well, if we do this, the country would be in difficulty. And they're saying we don't care. Let the country bleed and we will drink the blood for our own fat. That is insane. But that is the nature of unions. And then when the conversation about industry and efficiency is brought up, the first thing, understaffed and under-resourced. Popular excuse, the first excuse to pop up, understaffed, under-resourced. Get rid of them. I really don't like this whole idea. I really don't like this whole idea. And these are the things that suck down from the country, I think. These are the things that weigh down on the country. But it's the nature of politics. What are you going to do about it? Can you promise them something better? If you can't, well, those who can will.
I personally have no problem with, I don't want the 10%. I say nothing like every day, like, oh, well, I don't take the 10%. Okay, if I can change, if I can negotiate it, not take the 10% and keep my job, I'll do that. But history has shown, if they do this, just to appease these people, when places, because you have to borrow, they're already borrowing to pay salaries. Obviously, they're going to have to borrow to pay back pay, right? Which I don't think is a good or wise move at all. You shouldn't borrow to pay them kind of thing for development.
And I think the more you borrow, especially going down this route, each progressive borrow higher is very likely a riskier borrow, which is very likely higher interest on that borrow. Very likely. Very likely. If we had low interest borrowing ability, we would have borrowed it already. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Almost surely that borrow is going to be some high interest stuff.
Well, I mean, is it going to be borrowed? I mean, they're more likely just going to do bonds, right? Or they might do time. They could do time. But one of like these bonds, which I
What you mean for the cash payment or for the future pay, the rest?
The rest. The cash is sure. They get any cash for sure.
But here's the thing with the bonds, eh? The bonds are a real setup for the PSE. Because the idea of government issued bonds is basically telling you later.
Yeah.
So what's the point of successfully negotiating for the period X to X plus 10 and they say, yes, we're going to give you it in the next 10 years? That
But this is the thing.
kind of doesn't make sense.
Could win. Or not really win, but this is where it balances. You get the pay increase, so on your monthly pay, you'll see the increase. You're just not getting the back pay with it. So you'll see a payment adjustment, a pay adjustment, and then you get it back whenever you get a chance.
Well, yes, you will get the raise. That's obviously a benefit. But now, don't get me wrong. A 10% raise is a nice raise. Regardless of whatever your salary is, 10% is 10% more than you were getting before. But
Yeah.
on a real, in Trinidad's context, if you are making $8,000 and now you're making $8,800, I don't think your living situation is going to change much.
You see, we're looking at. I not just 10%. It's like, well, I mean, the way how they did it wasn't being messed up, but it's compounded, I guess is what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like 10 straight. So, you know.
So with the compounding, as far as you could tell, an average salary of 8,000 would be about what now?
Well, they passing around the salary scale. I don't know if it's real or not. It looks somewhat official. If it's not, then somebody have too much time on their hands. Too much time on their hands. So the base salary before was 5,000 and 45,000 something like that. And the new base salary is like 6,000.
So 1,000 more.
Yeah, about that, roughly $1,100.
And okay, even at 1,000 more at $5,000, as I said, this is not to belittle the people that are getting it. Because if I'm getting $1,000 more, even if I was making 30,000 a month and I'm getting 1,000 more, I want it. And it's good. It's more. Lovely. Great for you. But I think if you're putting an honest perspective on it, $1,000 more isn't, especially at a time where we're facing global inflation, which might be, in all fairness, it may be a fair reason why they need the raise, because global inflation is affecting all those things. I don't think 1,000 more is going to have a massive effect on your living situation. It's not. I think, for me, when I see a lot of the salary discussions and I hear people talking, a lot of what people look forward to is really the back pay, the lump sum. That's what a lot of people look forward to. Because the incremental raises, which are good, I keep saying, I'm not saying that it's not good and you're not going to get any real benefit from it. I'm not saying that. But the incremental raises aren't what really has a great effect on your life. Really and truly. And if it is that you're going to get 1,000 more, feel good about it. But the consequence is leading the country into the hands of the IMF. Would that be worth it?
Well, something have to give, and therefore, which is why probably non-cash is best. While everybody does look forward to the back pay, you look forward to it, I agree. But we can't get it, and you have to understand that you just can't. There's only so much you can do. Right? So, if you want to join, you send a request. Well, I don't know if I can send. Yeah, you send up a request, I'll add you. Yeah, but not everybody. I don't know if you're not. You have to be reasonable, right? At this point in time, everybody need inflation is setting, right? So,
but why should if you're Jonathan, feel free. But if you think about it, if I am a person here, I'm looking at the government spends money on all kind of different things, and then they're telling me that giving me the money that I find I am deserving of is going to bust the country. Why should I care?
Because then you will be out of a job eventually, right?
Well, maybe I make what I can and start to look for another job one time out of the country.
I guess that's a great idea if that's what you want to do. But then think about it. Where are you gonna get a good enough job to handle, especially if you're living in the Caribbean? We have free movement in the Caribbean technically, right? So you can go somewhere in the Caribbean and work easily, well easier than if you try to go into Europe or into America, right? The cost of living in those countries is so high. What job are you going to get that will help, that will cover everything for you, that will balance you out, right? So it doesn't make that much sense, not sure how. And Nathan, you can send him a thing to send a request to him, sorry. I don't know if I have a plus, actually. But any other idea?
Well, and to me, good night, Jonathan. To me, you see that's also the problem with the unions, because with a union, the idea of a union is they're supposed to represent my best interest. A union isn't necessarily there to represent the best interest even of the country. It's like if I hired a lawyer to represent me. I don't care for the lawyer to care about the jurisprudence of the country and to worry if he's going to expose a hole in the legal framework of this country's criminal law. I kind of don't care. I want what's best for me out of the legal system. So if I hire a union to seek my best interest, should it even be in the union's consideration balancing the country's finances with that? Yeah.
A union, at least we forget the legal term for a union is a bargaining unit. Literally, by definition, their role is clear. And it is often, as we have seen in our recent history, it is not necessarily for the well-being of the entity, the organization. Unions are the final say on BWIA, and it closed. They are the final say on ArcelorMittal, when they ultimately left. Petrotrend, as you know, I think we spoke about that a couple of years ago. Petrotrend is a sordid story that we'll keep for another time, but let's just say union certainly had a say in that final turn. The last, I haven't been in the country for a while, but I recall the last time we spoke, we had a few exchanges about taxes. And I know you were a bit reluctant to get into it, and you were more philosophical about the attitude of the government, etc. But I'm glad to see that the population is learning a bit about how the state, how any government runs in the world. Taxes are what makes it possible for governments to do anything. It's the majority source of their revenue, save for perhaps interest on investments they may have in entities elsewhere. Trinidad is now in a very dire situation, which had been spelled out year after year for anyone who cared to tune into the national budget, as Mr. Imbert would literally explain line by line the fact that our budgets, our revenues received by the state fell far short of what was required by the state to keep the lights on, to keep the apparatus going by the state somehow. And that would be my frustration in our conversations, that the general public never seem to understand that. Our debt to GDP ratio is now at 80%. Islands cannot go much further than that. Second thing, of course, as we know, Trinidad cannot print money like the US to get itself out of that. And in the case of the US, that's just temporary. They themselves are facing a crisis on the horizon. This 10% is sheer madness. Let's not forget that we started at a position of zero, which would have been easily defended legally if the matter is in court, still in the court. If it had gone to the judges, there's no way the country is in deficit and in debt, with no chance of revenue increase. So zero would have held. Politics get into it, and a promise of a 10. And strangely, not just 10% over a dead period, now it becomes 10% over two dead periods. And I should just remind everyone that negotiations start for the new term for additional. So we already don't have money. We have now promised money we do not have. And again, we seem obliged to promise some additional money on top of that. That's the behavior by the drunkard. That's correct. Any wife would throw out such a husband.
Correct.
In such a way. I tried to make light of it, but you would have seen the comment I mentioned earlier. Left to continue on this road of operating with money we do not have, we had to find it somewhere. Bear in mind, Trinidad also has several bonds outside. I am a holder of bonds. I'm sure several people listening here. The Bushy government owes us money to be paid in years down the road. about, I'm
Yep.
mentioning the 80%. It was mentioned by the opposition, based on the details of this fraudulent, I use the word very seriously, this fraud budget that was presented to the population. It's such as the gap of the deficit. It's not the usual, what was approximately 10 to 15 billion shortfall in terms of revenue received to what the government had to spend. This is going to take us to over 20, 25 billion that they will have to come in and ask for more money. Is a given.
Here's the problem, Jonathan. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
I listening to it as you saying it here. Like, I'm following everything you're saying and it's making sense. But already I could see 80% of the population,
Yeah.
their eyes just glazed over what you said.
Yes. And I blame that on a culture, what a fancy word, a culturalization. And that comes from media, etc. You'll notice how you've traveled, you'll see how media speaks about economy, etc. in other countries.
Here's the thing. It's not only us, you know. I was reading, and someone was explaining part of the phenomenon of Trump. And they were talking about the reading level in the US is at a range, I think, of 5th to 8th grade. So some like 7th grade might be the average.
Yes.
Reading. Now,
Yes.
when you say reading, it's not only the words you can pronounce and say, it's the words you can understand.
Yes.
And that's why the people that are generally the most popular over the widest range are the people who speak at a level that 7th graders could understand.
Yeah.
So,
That is a genuine dilemma. Along with my colleagues, I also stress the people in the States stop using words like demagogues and fascism, etc. That's not the language of the average man.
Ronnie, stop it.
In other words, you're saying words to impress, to show that you are educated to your peers. But that's not the audience you're trying to convert.
It's not the
So
audience.
What you're saying, I don't think I've used too many fancy in explaining about
You see,
it's just
and
the basic principle about taxation. We just need to understand taxation is not a dirty word.
no, it's not.
It is not about. It is the only way, as I said, the services that we demand, and this country demands a lot. The free healthcare, that electricity stays at a certain amount, and water stays at a certain amount. It is the only way this thing continues.
To me, the understanding of taxation, and this is why I could lean not 100% libertarian, because I think 100% libertarian minded is just as utopian in a sense as the socialists and communists. It's not going to work 100% that way. But the reason I could lean even more that side, because I am also fine with the understanding that if you want less taxation, you have to understand you should want less services.
Yes.
But what you cannot do is want more services and less taxation. You're asking for a mathematical impossibility. And that's the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. And the reason we could have lived that reality is the natural resource curse that we had. And also, I think colonialism gives a bit of that mindset to the former colonies.
Comes from above, manna comes from above.
Exactly. You don't actually have to balance this budget. We don't have to plant enough corn to feed our population through the next harvest. We don't have to consider that. A boat will come from the colonial powers and bring food, and they will bring the foreign, whatever foreign food they have, and we will eat that and we'll be fine.
Literally how it was, not just two generations ago.
Correct.
So it's very much deep. That's part of the acculturalization, and the other part, as I said, is just in terms of the level of language used now in media, and media is splintered so much now from my boyhood days of just the Guardian and the Express.
And the Independent.
With an idea, everyone to look at all copies they are available online, etc. You will see that the level of language and complexity was far more sophisticated back then.
Here's how you could look at it.
About the economy all the time.
Go look at old clips of even young people talking. Go find a clip from the 70s of a high school debate, And you're like, but these people are university professors, and the way they present themselves.
It's not grandpa speak when I say that we have evolved as a society. That's not me saying that my generation is greater than what comes.
I don't hold that as grandpa speak at all, because something I've realized also, if you talk to many old people, some old people, you talk to them and they're articulate and they can explain, and you hear they didn't pass standard 5. It was
an understanding of governance, with his role of the Senate.
It was a different thing.
A much firmer grip than what I hear today.
Like, for an example for me,
Yes.
I saw the Prime Minister responding to the opposition leader, and this could be a problem the opposition leader would fall into, because our opposition leader isn't spicy enough for 7th graders. She isn't the kind of character that would attract 7th grade reading level people, just to be blunt.
Which compounds the dilemma we are in as a
Exactly. Now, she said,
I've been quite vocal that I thought Mr. Young was by far the better choice.
me too. She said
For this time.
she wants answers. The country needs answers as to who has control of the data from the radar facility. That is a good question. Is it US controls the data, or is it that we have shared control of the data? Is it that we get the data and send it to the US, which I am almost 100% certain it is not? That's a fair question. But
The other half is even more profound. The funding, which is what I suggested to an emissary that she asked.
and
Funding.
the response from the Prime Minister is one that 7th grade level would love.
Yeah.
That is all your drug dealing friends who make you ask that question. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the PNM does have drug dealing financiers. Maybe. I don't know. But that still doesn't answer the question.
I think we spoke about the shadow economy that keeps all Caribbean islands afloat, and that includes all political parties.
Like,
Right.
we were having a clear discussion about different kinds of trafficking inside of that same ruling party not too long ago. If you all could find that video back, in these times I have to be careful. Next thing they say are trying to destabilize the country and they throw me in somewhere. But it's evident, even if you were to say they have drug dealing financiers, that still is irrelevant to answering the question at hand.
Yes, of course.
But to the 7th grader, yay! Good is a clap back, and we lose. We lose as a result of that. That radar facility, something I paid attention to with that radar facility. I believe the day after the radar facility was open, they announced the no-fly zone in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So, to tell me that the radar facility is for human trafficking inside our waters.
It's still laughable to this day that they had the audacity to raise that as a reason. And that's the one part, the second part that people actually listen to that seriously. Yeah.
They will not hear the fire reason that was given by the people.
Yeah.
Oh.
It is. You have to look at the funny side of things right now. The fact that we have all now been placed in mortal danger. Before we go back to the other, I want people to bear in mind what I consider to be the most fundamental error in this whole fiasco is the length of time the US has taken to make a move. It has allowed Venezuela to psychologically prepare, psychologically, and not just practically strategize. And then there's Chinese and Russian emissaries there lending military advice. Now, if I have, and these are experts, if I have experts lending military advice to Venezuela, where do you think Trinidad stands in their crosshairs? This is what is so. We are literally now been placed in mortal danger, and it is something I do not think the population does not take seriously.
I take it very seriously. But my view remains, though, that I think an attack on Trinidad is unlikely, because a frontal attack on Trinidad, I think, now, Obviously, I could be wrong.
It's not
Very
really
wrong.
framed as that, eh?
Yes, I am aware. I was getting to that. That's why I said a frontal attack. That's why I said a frontal attack. A frontal attack on Trinidad, I don't think would be in their strategic benefit. Because as I keep saying, a lot of wars, if you look currently, a lot of conflicts are really fought on the social landscape, on who gets more social points or who loses more social points based on that. So I don't think a frontal attack on Trinidad is likely. Now, though, we have put ourselves as a piece on the chessboard. So it is very likely that we are involved somehow in some move. And if we are, the chances of risk have gone up astronomically. And that is a
The
fact.
installation of the radar facility, which was declined, as we used to do, quite politely but firmly by Grenada. And now it's here.
And here's the thing, on you saying,
Russian advisors, the Wagner group is there. We've been, we're getting the blow by blow as to who are the players involved. If you're in the Wagner group and you have seen how the chess pieces are set up, as you said, we are clearly on the board.
we are on the board. Now, here's the thing. Here's my problem with this. You said you think the main thing is they took too long. I don't know. Because here's what I think. I think nobody really knows what the strategy is. Nobody even knows what the end game is. Maduro and Trump are still in phone calls. We don't.
We know what the end game is. The end game is, I think that there was at the early stages when last I spoke with you. We are watching what is a hemisphere, a battle for two hemispheres. With China having already claimed the Eastern and would have extended its influence considerably into the Western. By that I mean the entire Caribbean and Latin America. The Republican Party, because I can't say the US, I try to not be lazy like that. It's not the intention of the Democratic Party, clearly. The Republican arm of that runs things now has sought, or believing that they now have the majority of the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. I think they believe that with Trump coming back in, that they could make up an end game play for it all. And thus the early threat to Canada and Greenland, and then now the much more visceral and physical assertion in the Caribbean chain and Latin America. The end game of any hemispheric war, you're looking for, of course, the control. There's a recolonization. You're looking for control of assets. And you'll notice Trump is even trying to get into Africa once again. He's a peacekeeper there now.
I don't think it's recolonization like that. I think that's framing. I think recolonization would be framing with a favored view to a certain political view, because I think many of those countries are already performing like colonies, and it's a matter of which colonization you want more than recolonization. Many of those countries already function like that.
Colonization can't work as how we saw the last model. Nobody wants to rule the world anymore. It's too hard.
Exactly. So in to some extent, some people would say the US is pulling out of some of those countries. They are having less direct influence on some countries.
That is a slight variation. The
So-
key thing is you want the resources, and you're going to use whatever leverage to squeeze the weaker.
But here's why I say who knows what the end game is and the strategy is. I was looking at one of the shipping channels I watch on YouTube, and a week ago or so, they were talking about one of the US fleet was actually shadowing and blocking one of the Russian Ghost Fleet's vessels that were attempting to deliver naphtha to Venezuela, because Venezuela needs naphtha in order to allow their thick crude to run through their lines. If they cannot import it, the crude flow ends.
Yes.
And all is imported, they create none. So, they have to import it from Russia. But the Russian fleet is sanctioned, so they can't pass certain places. And for a while, the US, one of the US battleships, was blocking that Russian vessel from entering Venezuela. Eventually, after about a day or two of standoff, it made its way inside. So who knows what is happening behind the scenes? I don't think I don't think that vessel made it inside of Venezuela without some discussion being had. And who knows what those discussions are? We don't. So that's why I say we don't even know what the end game is, but we have put ourselves on the board as a player in this chess game. Well, we don't even know if the game is chess, it could be mahjong. But we have put ourselves on the board. We don't know the rules of the game. We don't know the end game. We don't even know all the players. But now we are a piece on the board.
To a large extent, but you can make educated guesses. Energy resources, and of course the resource that powers the future, which are the rare earths, of which Africa and some of Latin America possess. In terms of the energy resource, it goes without saying, and this has never been just about Venezuela, this is about Venezuela and Guyana. And again, it's time people start zooming out and start understanding why anybody would have an interest sniffing around a certain part of town. Venezuela is the largest oil reserve in the world. Guyana potentially will pass that in a very short time. Their proven reserves, and this is 2 years ago, their proven oil reserves stood at $750 billion US. 750 billion US dollars is more than we have ever earned in 100 years of drilling oil in Trinidad. It is incomprehensible money. Guyana is going to be the Dubai of the Caribbean within 5 to 10 years. We will all be there playing carnival in a very short time.
There's a curse to the resources. I bear that in mind.
Yes. That's just to understand that's the trajectories, and that's not going to change. Exxon is with full America, and America is there.
Mm-hmm.
They now just wanted to come for it in entirety, in the style of the Republican Party, very transactionally. And that's another little sub-note for Trinidadians. You think that if America got through in Venezuela and we signed with the dragon, that all that money come into us through ultimately through taxes and etc. with the multinationals who would want to stay in Trinidad. And again, I hope they understand how the world operates. America will, of course, be exacting a tax on anything earned, as they are now set up as the policemen of the Caribbean. They've set up their base, they've refurbished their base in Puerto Rico. They are refurbishing their bases in several other islands as we speak. This is a long game, and the long game is that they are going to run all the old mafia movies where they come to your vegetable shop and they say you wouldn't want anything bad to happen to it. And you pull a tax. So that's how that's me being realistic on the future of Trinidad. If we think we just get it happy, nothing is free, nothing is a favor. Canada is not off the hook. Greenland is not off the hook.
Of course not.
Should they get through with these low-hanging fruits? It is not hard to think of them just now going.
Here's the reality, and it sounds like you maybe have a differing view, but I kind of like it. I find it refreshing. I like the idea that they are blatantly seeking their best interests, because what they were doing before was tacitly seeking their best interests. And I found the other method to be much more insidious. The USAID method, the sponsoring all the UNHCRs in your country, sponsoring 50 different NGOs in your country, all these little machinations behind the scenes, forget about that. Clearly go and put your battleships where you want to put your battleships. Let's all see where the power actually lies, because the reality is this has always been how it was. Someone said that the CIA is currently, I saw that comment further up, the CIA is shifting the Caribbean back to more pro-US. Maybe, but I don't always think that things necessarily need to be so conspiratorial. Things lean in a direction sometimes by more default than that. If the US starts to flex its muscles more in the Caribbean, then it's no surprise if more territories decide to take that side of things, because now that's the possibility that presents itself. And if I am a leader, that's a consideration that I will take.
It's a consideration. But again, here's what they say: you may be done with the past, but the past ain't done with you. History informs every day of our life. Dr. Rowley in his last press conference took the time to ask the media persons there to read up on the history of the U.S. and the Caribbean and Latin America, because it's not being done and it's not being taught, and it's just to get an understanding. Again, the things that we used to discuss that are no longer discussed in schools or in general conversation. It is important to understand America seeks its own interests, and fair enough, we are small we are beyond small in the whole scheme of things, and must therefore work with diplomacy, must work with strategy, must work with where we can leverage something out of the mix. Because I made it clear, Trinidad does not have the acreage to compete with any country in the world agriculturally. We have not developed our tourism industry, which is our greatest crime. And the only thing else is a foreign exchange, falls back on the petrochemicals, which in itself is in every trajectory has been in critical decline. I understand it's in another 2 years. Many multinationals, I think Methanex just brought it up today. Many of them will be considering their options. With Guyana right next door, you can't blame them. Again, fair enough. Were you to have a energy interest in Trinidad, you would have already been meeting with your advisors about Guyana a while ago. Because now is the time to get in there. But I don't want us to stray too far from the original issue of the public funds and the unsustainability of this nonsense. That it is clearly unsustainable, that many people far brighter than me have already made that very clear to the entire population. And as you said, people have just blithely said that they don't care.
And
there is going to be a consequence. Economics is like gravity. You can throw yourself off of the highest mountain and fly for a bit.
It's maths.
But
the maths would always math. The math has to math. And if the maths isn't mathsing, then it can't work. It literally.
This raises the other question, because while we are seeing, and you use the word insidious, you're seeing very insidious attempts for the state to gain revenue with the bring back property tax by another name and all these other things.
I also saw they had a single-use plastic tax inside of there. It's going to be interesting how that all forms up, because as you were just saying, it's mathematics. If they aren't getting the money from somewhere, they have to get it from somewhere else. The money has to come in, or else it cannot work.
Yeah.
But
the problem the academics will tell you is that it comes across as vapsin, because there has been no study done on any of this as to what they expect to earn. They're just throwing out initiatives and seeing what sticks.
This is kind of why I did, and I keep doing many of the lives. I said this so many times, because many people oversimplify certain issues and then they erase even the possibility of understanding them, because all you have to do is tax a few landlords and you'll get all of that money in. But if you tax so much and so much landlord, them have all the money. No. It's literally not just that. If you do that, are they going to pass the cost on to the... I saw the finance minister, when I asked about this, passing the cost on to the customer. He said, well, find a next rental. You mean another rental that has to pay the same tax?
Yes, what a fellow.
Like...
The less I say about that so-called minister,
what kind of thinking is this? All of the landlords have to pay this tax. So if they all raise their rent, what position are we in?
Yes.
And of course they're going to do that. Which business would not attempt to pass the cost on? Which business wouldn't do that? Then you're a bad businessman. I always remember this. This to me is a lesson of how business people work, and I'll never forget this. I remember, and in a old person's home, an old person I knew was in an old person's home. And around this time, they raised the pension. The old person's home cost was the price of the pension. They raised pension. Within a week of the pension raise, the home wrote to their customers saying, we are going to raise the fees to the new price of pension. Basically, you must pay us all your pension regardless of what it is. That's how most businesses function. they will raise to swallow whatever is there.
By definition, it seeks to survive. Why are you doing the business at all?
Why would I do the business if I'm not making profit?
I spent many years explaining to workers a business cannot even run at a break even.
No.
Break even, money is always depreciated. So it must run out as a profit. Just to ensure that people get pay raises at the very least, but just to survive, to pay its taxes, etc.
You know what that reminds me of? The frustrating DSS back in the day. Like, trying to explain this to people. There's no mathematical way you can put in X and get out X times 10 without taking it from somebody.
Yeah.
The money doesn't grow like an actual flower. Though they call it a flower, there's no flower growing here.
Yeah. That's business. You're going out into a market to get something from that. You have to get something. So you have to come with a product that is of some value above the cost that you are selling it at. And as I said, and it speaks to the tragedy of culturalization that we are not as entrepreneurial as we once were. Again, if you go back in times, Trinidad and Tobago was a far more entrepreneurial country. As I said, come the oil money in the 70s, that is where things started to go awry, with public servants getting an excessive raises and public funds being used towards public service salary increases, which is almost taboo in most of the advanced countries of the world.
I think
not to demean it, but public service is just steps up from make work program.
exactly. And then to think that a make work program has a union. Imagine a political make work program has a union.
Yeah.
What?
It's insane, and by legislation on top of that.
That why does the public service need a union?
No, I think I could only give a theory. It just speaks to an understanding of industrial relations in the island at the time, and it still informs conduct in the court, etc., where workers were seen as uneducated, not far from slavery or indentureship, and requiring representation because they're simply not educated enough. While managers, supervisors, and management were assumed to be the educated class and actually have to conduct themselves in a particular way in the courts. I don't know if you've been to the industrial courts, but to this day it maintains that you are required to take verbal assaults, etc., from union reps and not engage because it is expected that you know better and that they may disparage, etc. Because again, that has to be the thinking that they are uneducated, but we all know this is no longer the case. But as I said, the past is not done with you. But just to get back to for the country understanding the very real danger of where we are going, and of course the question of why is the government embarking on these, apart from election promises gone bad, why are we embarking on this now haphazard approach to fiscal management at such a dire time? The budget deficit for this year is going to likely take us now between 90 and 100% debt to GDP ratio. As Mr. Ibbott has repeated, it is going to violate various previous agreements or loan agreements that will automatically require that we go to the IMF so that we settle the debts. These are all parts of loan agreements that we make if the country goes in, as would be in any loan agreement anyway. If you've ever dealt with the banks, if you fall into any type of jeopardy, etc., they expect, many of us, if you built a home, you have to have life insurance or this kind of thing. Why? Because it's about you dying, etc.
Correct.
So make sure they're recouping their money.
They must never lose.
They never lose. Well, and it's fair enough. They are the money lender. If you lending money, if I lending money.
But that's what I was saying, for example, about the US and they're doing what they're doing. Like, fair enough. I understand. You do what you is you. This was my problem with our prime minister. What I said, if I was an American, I might like MAGA. Grand, make America great again. But I am not an American. I, by definition, cannot be a Trinidadian politician and be MAGA. It makes no sense. I have to be Trinidad first. How could I be America first? I cannot tie myself to the American administration that puts itself forward as America first. If I am a Trinidadian politician trying to be Trinidad first, we will obviously be at odds with each other.
And many other reasons too. As I said, MAGA does not seek my interests. I know personally. I doubt it seeks yours. There are many other reasons for but
Ronnie, you wanted to say something?
yeah, sir.
You there, Ronnie?
Someone else, sir.
No. Quickly, just to say two things. One, I would just like to point out how wonderful Guyana's government is handling the U.S. because the U.S. is in and up and down in Guyana, but Guyana has been very quiet about it. Love that for them. But the budget, I don't think a lot of people really went through. Probably they don't even understand how to go through the budget properly. We are in a deficit with the budget as is. Meanwhile, almost half the votes have no money. They didn't allocate the money, but they will get the money for it. So therefore, we're going to be in a further deficit by April.
That's the element of fraud about it.
That's the part I remember, because there was a lot of things that I heard in the intervening time. I remember hearing that, Ronnie, and I was like, wait, what?
That's never happened in our history.
They gave a budget, and in the budget, they didn't put the money to pay the things they promised for in the budget.
Yes.
But not only things that they promised, but like just regular things that they should have money in.
So regular recurring expenses don't have the money either?
Development. I'm not looking at development. So a lot of the development programs got no money. I think possibly I have seen in a single page, in one single page of development programs, only like 2 would got money. Everything else was flat. 0, 0, 0, 0.
Wow.
It's very disturbing. Yeah.
Wow. So this coming year, very likely, will be mafia-ish from this government in terms of trying to scrape money from all about to move all about to get things done.
Yeah, of course.
The question is to get what done in that even prima facie. I see near to 9 billion allocated to education and only 1.9 to infrastructure, and it just speaks again to how screwed our thinking is. I think we all see how this country looks like right now. Is this a sign of development by continuing to channel monies to these other entities, which is a matter of debate as to whether we get $9 billion of education, quality education?
No, the answer is no. As someone in the education sector, the answer is no.
Long time. Yeah.
And here's something very interesting that hit the news. They said Junior Sammy laid off workers. Junior Sammy responded saying that they don't lay off workers. They put them on rotation. They don't know where that story come. But this original story may be not totally true, but there's a tail inside of the story.
Of course.
Junior Sammy is the size of contractor that could only survive on government jobs.
Yes.
So if Junior Sammy is having a downturn, and the description they gave of the downturn is comparable to the 80s. I don't know how many of you are familiar with construction sector. The 80s was insanely hard in Trinidad in the construction sector. That's about as bad as it got. Skilled workers that were making $400 in the 70s were making $90 in the 80s.
Yeah.
400 70s, 90 in the 80s. My father's been in construction for a while.
Yeah.
And that's what Junior Sammy is hinting we are heading back to. And that's that only, the fault of that, because of the nature of how our country is run really and truly, it shouldn't be like that. You should have private sector construction to hold the market, but there isn't enough private sector construction for the large contractors.
No.
So if he is, and he says that's because of the forecast they have for the coming quarter, that there's nothing in the pipeline. So where is the money going?
Profound social implications, and this is the time where the money should be going into, as I say, make work / construction efforts, etc., etc. There are many implications for the financial sector. How do we get interest on our money? We get interest because the banks and the other financial institutions invest in construction going on the island. That's one part, and they invest in many other interests.
And some people...
That's how the whole thing works. And again, the lack of education and understanding about this. Alarm bells should be ringing.
When I saw that Junior Sammy story, scared me a bit.
Yes.
Because that tells you that there's already a shift on the ground.
Yes.
There's a ground shift already. And construction isn't just the dirty men mixing concrete. Construction has a ripple effect very wide. There are lots of industries that survive off of the peripheral, as it were, the periphery of construction.
Yeah. And I don't know. The long story short, apart from the ChatGPT transformation nonsense that was put up, where they even sought to bring back the trains that they opposed for 20, 30 years. I don't know how much this population can take. It's really behavior. It's like an insult to people with intelligence. Why? But again, why would you adopt this line of wanting to insult people's intelligence? You know, again, talking about money we don't have and wanting to inveigle the private sector with no incentives at all. It's Mama Guy. You know, I'm glad we invented so many of these words. You know, it's Mama Guy at the highest order. But it's just that it carries a very bitter taste in light of the dire situation we are in. I mentioned that this budget alone, just 1 year, is going to take us into the 90s and may likely, as we said, but who knows, much more than us. It's likely going to trigger IMF intervention. We know that the IMF, when brought in by Barbados the last go around, the immediate demand was a cut of the public service by 25%.
I ain't gonna mind that.
It is part and parcel, and it's all fair enough.
I wouldn't mind.
Asking them to bail you out. They have to get back their
Cut
funds
it.
to continue to be a sustainable thing to other countries of the world.
Can we cut it without going to the IMF? Like let we pretend we went to the IMF before we reach the IMF and just cut it now.
Yeah.
Like,
And this is the sick joke in terms of this so-called 10%. As I say, be careful what you wish for. Because I believe there is a sting in the tail to come, but you won't be able to point directly at the government.
here's the problem with some of this.
They're going to let the IMF say, you know.
Yeah. They'll blame the IMF, but that won't change the vexation on the ground. I was speaking about this at the start. There's a phenomena going on right now called the Gen Z fall, where lots of Gen Z are causing revolutions all around the world.
Yes.
If you play around in the country and things start to get very hard come next year, you see, here's the problem with Gen Z. Their future prospects don't look bright. And at least with the millennials, us millennials had some of that. Our future prospects didn't necessarily look all that bright, but we were at the cutting edge of that revolution in technology that moved, and yet still there was still the Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement and all of that, and the Arab Spring uprisings that tore through the Middle East and all of that. There were still those movements, but we still had the technology. We were at the cutting edge of technology, so there was always a new frontier in technology to pull the millennials forward. The Gen Z doesn't have that technology, what you would call that love for the new technology as it's cutting edge there. They were born into it. It's nothing novel to them. That doesn't just numb them from the activities going on around. And then their future prospects don't look bright. Then they're not having children. You see, one of the surest ways you could get people to not go in the middle of the road and do reckless things is if they have children. You're not going to run down in the middle of the road and let police shoot at you so easily if you have 3 children at home waiting on you. But if you have none.
You're raising a topic for another time, and that has to do with the country's demography. Trinidad is in a precipitous decline.
We spoke about that. It's scary.
Yes.
The health minister, when he said the numbers last year, it was, I believe it was 9,000 births.
Yes. Trinidad has long been on and about 12,000, for people listening in, 12,000 births to 9,000 deaths. So a kind of net increase, but that has been now subverted. It's almost level to level with deaths. I've been an HR practitioner for 30 years, and demography is very important to us. So we've been watching pretty much for the last 20 years. When I sat common entrance, it was 25 to 27,000 children started a year. Over the last 15 to 20 years, that figure has been below 20,000.
Yep. And yes,
So you just, as you say, do the math.
everything I regularly, this is one of my pet issues. These are one of my pet issues. I regularly talk about how the world is changing. You could look out there and see it. As I am a father now, and I have children, I could look out and see that the world is less welcoming to children than when I was a child. The number of playgrounds.
I have an unscientific joke I always say, think about how many friends you have. We all have many friends. How many of them have 3 children?
Correct.
Because you need the 2.1.
Correct.
according to math.
Correct. Lots of my friends have none. None. And that's just the reality.
Never been proved wrong, and I keep asking it all around.
So that's the thing with Gen Z. Gen Z has no kids. So when they don't have that to lose, they have no kids, they have no future, and then you spoil their present because they can't fit. They can't fit because noise pollution, Atto Bolden Stadium close off to them. They're increasing a lot of the driving penalties, so they now buy the little note, the little aqua, and you hit them with a $3,000 fine. Then they lose their job. Then the IMF come in and all the nice little goodies that all about Trinidad gone.
The prospect of living. What are we doing about this prospect of living? Because the fencing itself is also a story in itself. And many of them would soon not be able to. Maybe that's why they want to bring in the older and older cars so they can afford a car to go to a fence. But the socialization is in jeopardy, marriage is in jeopardy, children.
And here's the reality. Lots of Gen Z makes money through promotion.
Yeah.
That is an industry. Millennials and Gen Z, lots of them. I know some people in the business. Some of them they make quite a bit from that business. And you're shutting it down.
That opens up another door which we are trained not to go down, and that has to again to do with sociology and demography in terms of what groups are benefiting from certain industries and what groups are not.
I got you.
Many quarters that there seems to be a direct attack on particular groups.
But
let's just say non-aligned groups.
But to me,
But that's for another day.
this present administration,
Yes.
and it's because I think the leader is attempting to take modeling from Trump. She is, to me, it seems, to me,
Battle of hemispheres, I think there's a battle going on.
to me, who pays maybe way too much attention to American news, I can see that she's trying to channel Trump in the near reckless level she is going in certain things, attempting to be very blatant in certain actions. And I don't think we have the same public as the US does for her to work it the same way, but I think she's attempting
See,
to.
you're thinking logically. I asked the question in a few public forums. I always ask the question, why? How we are such a marginal political, there's such a marginal balance between the major political parties. many politicians have learned over the years to not speak in particular ways, etc. At least they it becomes a 90s scandal, etc. Why is this particular prime minister so emboldened? And I have to wonder, the logical part to me is have assurances been given by certain entities?
Maybe.
Even a rule in certain entities in our last very curious general election.
Maybe. And here's the thing though. I might have a bit of extra confidence and extra chip in my step if I was sent out to the proverbial political pastures in retirement, and then I came back and what seemed like a resounding win. Now, we analyzed the results and it seems quite obvious. It's not that the government won support, it's that the current opposition lost a whole lot of it. It's kind of clear. They got, I think, 20,000 more votes than they got in 2020. That's not a lot more. While really and truly it's that the PNM lost. But if you go in there feeling like I now have a mandate because they chose me.
They tried using the word majority and that was quickly
and
rushed by a lot of people. Stop using that word.
Here's a bit of history on that. This would be technically the first time the UNC won an election.
Yep, it was the first time on their own.
The UNC doesn't win. So now she could say, I win.
I think they won in 2000.
That's why I said technically. But they won that, but it only lasted like 4 or 5 months before it disintegrated.
That's for the part.
So technically, this is the real, and this is UNC. So that's why even the outsiders have nothing to say. That's why even when they're appointing boards, and we see people in Trinidad complaining about the demographics of the board, they will appoint another board the next day, and they don't care what you say.
The doubling down and the tripling down, and that's why I'm saying I'll start asking the question why, because this is above and beyond. The PNM does not operate like that, as we all well aware. As I said,
Possibly.
I have to look at motive.
Possibly.
Yes.
It isn't as sinister as we believe it to be. Maybe she's
The only people they know.
okay. No, she knows this is her last. She's going out with a bang. And she does not care. I don't think she cares what happens to her party after. There is no clear line of
Succession, sorry. But here's the thing though, Ronnie.
She doesn't care.
Knowing
She just mash up everything.
with Trinidadian politicians, I don't actually believe that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa intends for this to be her last rounds. I think Ronnie, do you not know politicians?
Nathan, she cannot stand on her own. Is she coming in a wheelchair to ask for our votes?
Yes.
Dr. Rowley remains the only politician leader to have walked away.
And I have so many squabbles with Dr. Rowley, but he will always have a lot of points in his category for just that. Because very, very, very few politicians are able to do it. Very few. And
Gets a lot from me for his honesty.
And here's the thing.
Beyond reproach.
Many of them that even retire make a tack back. I hope he doesn't do that. Stay in retirement.
He's doing the best thing he can do in light of the very weak replacement that is presently there. Yeah, he has to have these occasional, like Stuart John, they have to re-enter the arena.
I hear people angry about that. And I mean, if you don't like Dr. Rowley, of course you wouldn't like to hear him speak. So that's a given. But to me, this is plainly understandable. It's plainly understandable. An easy example to look at is in the US, because they force their presidents to stand down after 2 terms, so they have a lot of ex-presidents. And all of their ex-presidents put their mouth into the politics. Obviously, why would you expect them not to? I would want them to. Why would if I'm to say that Dr. Rowley, he believes that he really tried his best for the 10 years he ran. why would he not attempt to help the country after he's out of power? Like, who wouldn't want that? I mean, you could not like the man if you want, but that's ridiculous.
That's the practice of writing books, which he has done, etc., which more leaders should take an example from. I think where he has had to speak it wasn't the way in America either, where presidents would get involved, but as their politics became less about economics and more about more sociological and theological, you could say, the presidents have had to enter the arena to defend their positions, and Dr. Rowley has had to come in to defend because absolute untruths are being circulated, etc.
How would we know if their leader becomes senile? Big Al? We will not know. And you know what's the irony? Remember, she came in after Biden lost and insulted Biden going and coming about his mental acuity.
Yes, of all people. And now we are seeing evidence upon evidence mounted on this spectrum.
So, if as it presently stands, she really does start to slip, I don't think we would know. I mean, obviously Trinidad is small. So, like, even in their first administration, the reports of inebriation were far and wide because Trinidad is small. A Garden emergency branch worker would have children. They would tell their children what they saw. Their children would come and tell all their friends in school. Trinidad is small. So we would hear the rumors and the talk, but in terms of a solid ability to know, we wouldn't. One. Two, I do not think the present UNC base would care.
No, well, she has apparently trained. I have to say, he was apparently an alleged, because you never know who's listening. But there seems to have been a lot of good training done in that. I maintain, and I stand to be corrected, she remains the only prime minister who has never had an open mic press conference. She sends out statements, some to Ian Allen of all people, sends out tweets, and will make a statement when leaving somewhere or standing there for a minute, but she has never had an open mic. As you would recall, he taking bringing it up, it's not that I'm biased to Dr. Rowley, but he was ready to defend any position he had, whether you like it or not. He having town hall, he's sitting, wide open, live on TV. Ask me anything.
The UNC, and I would give Mrs. Prasad Visasa her props in politics for that, because it seems like she is immovable from the UNC as long as
she has understood how to play that game by putting nothing on record, by responding to nothing, because as I said, there are no open mic press conferences.
And she endeared herself to the core of the UNC base. Yeah. The middle-aged East Indian woman from South and Central sees themselves in Mrs. Prasad Visasa, and she is immovable because of that. Now, I may say I don't know how well she'll do in future general elections. Who knows? As some people allege, if the CIA on her side, who knows? But in terms of internally, I'm not sure I could even see how she would lose internally in the UNC. I just don't see it. And it doesn't seem to me that the general UNC base even cares that much about her in that sense. It doesn't matter like that. She has cemented herself in that position and is basically unmovable.
We've seen by their demographics of the vote that it doesn't matter who. Once they're in there, they are coming out to vote. UNC has always understood that an election does not care about your feelings. It is an instrument for which any group or any society selects a leadership or a parliament.
I say bring back Keith. Harry Lad. I don't think he would win. I don't think Dr. Rowley would win, to be honest with you.
No, it's time. As I said, he's not the man for this moment.
No.
I am quite open and clear that Stuart Young was ready-made. I was actually looking forward to him as leader of opposition, firing with a back at the, well, Lord knows the nonsense that we have all had to to witness in the last 7 or 8 months. Big Al made a good comment there about the hot mic moment with Miss Vicessa, and to your point about evidence of aging, and there have been a lot of these weird comments and slips.
Yeah, there have been.
You know, but again, that's into conspiracy theory, so we just leave that there. And I always said a hell of a thing, a prime minister threatening assault. With the shoe on the other foot. Well.
And you know, that particular thing,
Yeah.
that I think that wasn't taken so seriously
No.
because of her gender and age.
Because of what we know, without saying out loud, what we know, there's also a level of sexism as well.
Yes.
Which she has repeatedly benefited from.
Yes.
I've never seen someone so defended as not being properly advised.
Exactly.
As if she makes no decisions or has no thoughts of her own. Any other prime minister.
That's bias. That's prejudice in her favor. If Dr. Rowley and his tall black gruff self had tell somebody, I go cuff you down, it's all over, that would have made global news. This big black man telling somebody in parliament, you know Dr. Rowley voice, I will cuff you down.
As well to it, and the media agenda, the pretty obvious media agenda. The media was gone silent on crime and silent on many things. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? As some people talk about with the CIA and all of those kind of involvement, there were lots. I always noted this. There were lots of crime pages in Trinidad and Tobago. Instagram was replete.
Globally, because a headline goes on the internet on Google. Once you talk about Trinidad, yeah.
On Instagram pages.
Famously commented for at least the first couple of months that crime had disappeared from Trinidad after the election.
And I follow a lot of those pages. I like to keep up with current events.
Yeah.
And I find quite a few of the pages that showed you every single crime and the CCTV footage.
Yes.
Now they're showing you ads and funny videos.
What's going on around the world? That's what we want to hear about now.
There is no crime.
There's no crime. Yeah. So I have a full appreciation of what's really going on, and I think it's far bigger than all of us can imagine. And it speaks to me the doubling down and tripling down of this administration. In that I do believe some assurances have been given. Now that's only as good as the Republicans can hold on to power.
And that's the thing,
Shifting under their feet as we speak tonight. You know, they seem to be on the way out. They are in a race to impose martial law, which in Trinity language is state of emergency before the midterm election.
And the thing is, Trump only has one more term. Even with the jokes and the snide talk, I don't think he's actually going to go for a third term.
He does have one more. This is it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. This is his last term. Okay, one more as in this. So
if nothing happens, if there is no martial law imposed and they do get to the midterms, that's really it. He only has 1 year left.
correct, because Congress is going to shut down everything he's going.
It's not a case of maybe. When they get the House and most likely to the Senate, that will be the end of his agenda.
He wouldn't be able to get anything done. They will attempt to impeach him. I don't think they would ever get the numbers to impeach him.
I also anticipate the Democrats will be setting up various congressional hearings for the war crimes that are in discussion. Now is the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be lots of investigations.
Obviously, we know how the opposition deals with Trump. They will try to throw him in jail again and all of that. I dislike the Democrats a lot over in the United States, but we know how that all goes. In the event, though,
Yes.
he cannot win again. So even if the Republicans, everything works in their favor, they win somehow, they win the midterms, and they win the next election, nearly 100%, the same ideology that Trump has is not going to carry on.
No, the dream ends with with that and people start waking up.
J.D. Vance?
Many are waking up to the reality that they face right now because of his tariffs. It's now beginning to bite all across.
J.D. Vance is much more isolationist than Trump. He is not looking...
In chatter, yeah.
He is not at least... I could only speak about chatter because he didn't have a chance. He is much more isolationist than Trump. I don't think you're going to get that headway. Marco Rubio is old school neocon. He might be all over the world trying to take over the world if he goes. And those are the two top options. I don't think you're going to get what you think you're going to get. It's just not the way it works.
It's a cult of personality, a personality of one. He's one of one. You may see an attempt by whoever the interests are behind him to bring in a family member, kind of like people like political dynasties.
Yeah, they do, but I don't think it would work.
But I don't think any of them are so inclined. They've made so much money, which is likely to be also under investigation by Democratic congressional boards, etc. That I don't think they'll be able to go further. And therein will end the dream, will end the fever dream that took over the country for the
I don't think any of his offspring have the requisite charisma to do it.
No.
I don't think they do.
You'll see the mechanism. You see, this is about survival as well. Many are facing genuine jail. they know this far more than all of us.
But I think personally, the United States is heading for lots of internal trouble in the medium to long term, because this tendency that the Democrats started, I know you seem favoring of the Democrats, but that the Democrats started of attempting to jail their predecessor, and now the Republicans are continuing, and I don't think the Democrats are going to stop in the next campaign. It's not going to end. It's not going to end, and it will accelerate.
Remember, the Republicans started it. This began with Nixon having to resign, and they have always had it in for the Democrats. They tried it with Clinton, it backfired.
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say the Republicans started it by saying the Democrats did the first investigation that caused Nixon to resign, and the Watergate scandal.
The investigation was by mandate. Remember, Nixon resigns because he lost the Republicans.
Yes,
it wasn't like it wasn't partisan.
The scandal was partisan.
The scandal, remember, the scandal is really the cover-up of a crime. A criminal act occurred, and the president claimed he did not know, and then.
But the criminal act, wasn't it the something to do with the Democrat Party headquarters or something?
The burglary of the Democrat Party was one part of it.
Right.
Which he claimed to not know, and it was later found out that he did know.
Right.
The second part really was he used public, funds used from the Republican slush fund. In other words, funds raised for just campaigning, he used it to pay off.
Correct. And so in terms of that, that was a partisan scandal. And the problem with those things is that generally in politics, it seems like this to me. Quite clearly, they turn blind eyes to what many may consider criminal actions. So when they stop turning that blind eye, you're starting trouble. So the talk about war crimes on the current Secretary of War for those actions. Then if you're doing that, Mr. Obama has a lot to face and answer for. Anwar al-Awlaki.
He never invaded a country unilaterally. He would have continued and always under the auspices of trying to reduce America's participation with the
All right, Johnny, you believe that, brother? You believe that? The drone in chief, drone boss himself, blow up weddings himself. Innocent citizens himself, the top civilian deaths himself. He was actually seeking peace. All right. Okay. I can't argue that.
The whole Israel-Palestine thing, and you may not like my views there either.
I don't know. I don't know if you know where I would sit in the whole Israel-Palestine thing. But
I am actually on the side of Israel with that one.
I am not.
Because I don't think many people know the history
I don't think I wouldn't say that I'm on the side of Israel, but anybody in the live know that I'm certainly not on the side of Palestine in that. And I think war is war, and attempting to hold brownie points in war is a foolish game. If you're saying we want no war, then we want no war. But if we're warring to tell me I shoot you too much and I only shoot you 2 times, so you should have shoot me for, I find that whole discussion ridiculous.
It's not just that. It's the understanding too. Your neighbor has attacked you now. Yeah, your neighbor attacked your house once. You have it out with him once. He attacks you a second time. You bring in the police, etc. You address that. He attacks you a third time. What do you seek to do after that? Not to stop your neighbor from attacking you again. This is the dilemma the Israeli government face. You're dealing with a land territory next to them, literally, that is riddled with underground tunnels housing terrorist activities. So, from the minute I heard of the third attack, I said they are going to annihilate Gaza. It has to be destroyed and rebuilt, but it has to be destroyed first as it is, and it's going to be rebuilt with their control. Just common sense.
That will be very interesting to see how all that goes.
Palestine, and the people who are pro-Palestine have no idea of the history. They never knew that there were multiple attacks before.
I have said this. I have said this. To me, in my discussions, much of the most pro-Palestine voices are generally Muslims, which I completely understand. If you're Palestinian and pro-Muslim, that makes complete sense. And Muslims, leftists, as in people who are of the global leftist movement, and they believe that Israeli is a European colonial settler project, and they're thinking about it in the whole decolonization mindset.
Which is quite unfortunate.
But
again,
it's the nature of leftism, and also there's the racial aspect where they see the Israelis as being more white, and they're taking advantage of the brown people and all of that, and those power dynamics. So
again, it's very unfortunate. It shows they don't even understand.
Those are the two groups that by and large are the most pro-Palestinian and pro-Palestine. And what you'd find are people associated with those groups may hold on to the views too. So people who are close to Muslims, who may be former Muslims, maybe within the Muslim sphere, yes. People who look at a lot of leftist content, who lean leftward, who see themselves as being co-travelers with the socialist mindset, they may lean that side. But by and large, other than those ideological camps, I don't see it a lot. Israel is an apartheid state. Okay, if you say so, I'm not going to argue that. All right, people, it's 11:45. That's all I have for now. It has been good being back. It's been a while, according to Ronnie, a little more than a month. Nisi!
I was on YouTube and I was like, hey, when last I had a video? And it was a month ago.
Yeah. I come back. I remember the last time I come back a month ago, I said I was coming back for real, and then the busyness of the end of the year hit me.
Yes.
But then True Real says I'm a Christian, I am for Palestine. What's your belief in social policy, socialism? What's your take on socialism? Anyway, but that's all I have for now, people. Shazam once again inside here, man. Any closing statements from Ronnie and Jonathan?
Ladies first.
Y'all just be careful out there. Don't spend all your back pay in one place. I know it's tempting. But it's gonna be interesting. This year is gonna be fun.
Yeah. I'll echo Ronnie's comments for those receiving a back pay. Please invest it in something. We are heading into some, as I said, reality is catching up in Trinidad in a hurry. This is a time for saving and austerity. The fastest growing industry in the island remains the fast food industry, which is quite disturbing to me in terms of the amount of money I see people who would be considered lower income, and they are forking out $14, $16 for burgers, and we clearly have lost the plot and need to return to some basics and basic living. And of course, there's the fear of any escalation of actual war. We as Dr. Rowley mentioned, it just takes one gas line to be destroyed, and we will be without electricity for any number of weeks to months. Months. You would need to go in and repair the gas lines, which run in Venezuelan territory. And again, too much time has been given to Venezuela. The pipelines are going. I hate to sound alarmist, but you know what would you do? Would not have already put bombs, etc. on them all now. We will be without electricity for months, and I do take the time to invest. I recently came back to Trinidad. I made sure to get my solar-powered radio, solar-powered chargers. Make sure to stock up on candles, citronella, all that type of thing. We have to think as adults. We have to think, prepare, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And I don't get that vibe out there at all. People buying toilet paper, that kind of nonsense. Please make sure that you're all stocked up, not in a panicky way, but in a practical way. And I hope nothing bad comes, because many people psychologically not prepared for that.
I just want to bury my head in the sand and hope for the best.
Listen for those listening, please take the moment to go on YouTube and watch his far-ranging press conference he had. The gas lines, what it goes to TGU, etc. in South is what keeps the lights on, literally. Why we able to have such cheap electricity and what keeps it on. If they are ruptured, everything goes.
Scary stuff.
Sorry?
Scary stuff.
Scary stuff. But again, I am a father. Some of us are parents out there, and as I said, just as adults, we need to be serious.
Mm-hmm.
You need to take in front, yeah. Otherwise, everyone a happy Christmas. I met Santa Claus in Toronto the other day, and I asked him if he was coming, and he had a joke. He was well aware about Trinidad. He said, it's a wait and see. So, he's hilarious. He was married to a Bajan woman, so he actually knew all about the culture and everything. And so yeah, but yeah, it's a very damp mood all around. I know. Let's just continue to hope for the best, and yeah.
All right, people. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow is tomorrow, if yeah. But I'm looking to be back. If not tomorrow, we'll be here Monday. Latest, people, hold it down. Stay good. Stay well. Stay inside. Outside, they sketchy. Leave the Venezuelans alone.